Okay, so welcome to this week's Fife Property Update. This is the 12th of February to the 18th of February, the week just passed. We'll look at all the numbers, how many properties have actually been listed in that week, how many properties have actually been sold in the same week, give us a good idea, supply and demand. We'll also be talking about other things like inflation, unemployment levels. We'll also be talking about average prices. It was out this week for the Office of National Statistics for the Registers of Scotland in terms of Scottish house price average and also the Fife and how much Fife has potentially gone up or down in the last year. Okay, let's crack on. Let's show some numbers here and I'll just go through them. So here we are here. This is the last week. As you'll see, that bit at the bottom is actually 124. That's the totals. Just so you understand that. So week 2 of February. Now, again, you can see right at the bottom when you compare like with like 124 versus 126. Even Stevens, but technically, demand is outstripping supply. And you can see by area, actually. So you see in Cooper, 4 properties actually came onto the market according to Rightmove. And 7 properties were actually sold in the same week. East Neuk, 4 came on, 2 sold. St Andrews, 14 came on, 4 sold. Leadenmouth, 9 came on, 12 sold, demand outstripping supply there. Dunfermline, 47 versus 60 again, demand outstripping supply. Glenrothes, even Stevens at 1919, and 27 versus 22 for Kirkcaldy. Overall, 124 versus 126. Now, just a wee proviso here, there is 12 in there, which actually are new build. And if I strip them out, you actually see 12 that are new build when I can go back and we can see where the difference is in here. Actually in Glenrothes, the new builds were, and also in the Dunfermline area. So Glenrothes, Dunfermline area is where the 12 is. So we've stripped them out. And the reason I strip out new build, because new build is actually put onto Rightmove typically. And it's usually the design and the models of each house. They don't put every single house on a new build project. And then they don't actually put sold in it either. So it wouldn't register on these figures. So in order to make these figures work and actually mean something in real terms, and we compare apples with apples, common thing you always used to get at primary school, compare apples with apples, oranges and oranges, we do it like this. So technically, you're 119 in the week versus 126 actually sold. So demand outstripping supply right now. It tends to be at the lower up to the 300,000 mark and stabilizing from 300, 500,000, and supply is outstripping demand for the 500,000 mark and upwards in terms of price points. Did we show on that a couple of weeks ago? A couple of things I want to talk to you about quickly. There's a few things on here. The average price for Scotland. I did a headline show during the week, and the average price for Scotland is 187,224. Still makes it very affordable. Average salary in Scotland is 31,000, 32,000. So that still makes about 6 times multiplier, which is actually a really good stable market. It's when it goes up to about 9 or 10, like what they've gone down in England and London. That's when you've got a bit of volatility and swings, and things could change dramatically overnight because of that. Whereas Scotland, it should be quite stable. Annual price in Scotland for the last year, 5.7%. It was down. In Fife, the average price for a house in Fife at this point in time is £173,968. Still extremely affordable in comparison. Versus 165,215 the year before. So that was roughly round about a 5.3% uplift. It has come down from the previous month, so you're beginning to see the decreases month on month in property prices actually falling through, combined with the increases from the previous month, and that's why it tends to come down. And we'll all get to a point where you actually see house prices year on year actually coming down by the end of the year. Hence the reason why when you say, well, the house prices aren't going to come down, if that's happening so far and it continues to happen, or even if it stabilizes out, it still will be reflected by the end of the year that house prices on a 12-month annualized basis have actually come down. Okay, I mean, that's fact. The great deals out there, though, at this point in time, if you're a first-time buyer, if you're looking to remortgage or anything like that, the good news is, even though base rates have gone up to 4%, half a percentage to 4%, they've still got fixed rate deals out there below 4% now on the domestic housing market. So you can actually get fixed rate deals out there below 4% right now. even heard 3.75 being banded about for a 5-year fixed rate deal. That's really, really good to fix in right now, considering base rates are actually higher than that deal right now. They predict, obviously, they think our base rates are actually going to drop. I actually possibly predict something different. I'm going to talk about it on the Wealth Creation Show tomorrow at 12:30 live. Richard and I are going to be going over this about is buy-to-let still feasible, but we're also going to be talking about some of the background towards this in order to understand where the economy is going and where they would be forecasting, or where we think it's forecasting. We could listen to the Bank of England governor, we could listen to the UK Prime Minister, and we could listen to all these think tanks. But the reality is, they've kind of been wrong so far. And I know that because when I spoke to the Bank of Scotland Corporate Division last year, and they predicted a certain prediction, it's not actually come true. It's actually base rates have gone higher. So we're going to be talking about that tomorrow on the Wealth Creation Show. We're going to be talking about mortgage rates. We're going to be talking about inflation. Also, we're going to talk about how additional dwelling supplement will affect the second home market and also property investment market, and also buy-to-let investment itself, and how unemployment numbers now in at 3.7%. So we've still got a record low unemployment level. Since 1971, it's never been as low unemployment level. So it means we've got a full employment system right now. We also have inflation still sitting at above 10%. And we'll also be talking about what our predictions are and where we think inflation is actually going to go based on tomorrow, and a lot of good information about that, about inflation, starting to break it down into categories such as household bills, food and drinks, restaurants, hotels, furniture, health and clothing, footwear, alcohol and tobacco, and that, and give you an understanding how that average pans out and what the big hitters are in terms of inflation. I mean, we all know food and drinks one right now, but there's another one in there higher than food and drink right now. For inflation, which is actually affecting that figure. We have as well political uncertainty. USA's kind of saying to China just now, we think you're going to be supplying weapons to Russia, and that could be a big concern, especially for the economy, knock-on effect to the housing market as well. So we might touch on that as well tomorrow, and how that will pan out if that is forecast and that actually comes true, and actually extrapolate from there. So we might talk about that tomorrow as well as demonstrating things like yield, stress tests and occupancy rates, capital appreciation, and live interaction demonstrations on showing you exactly if buy-to-let is worth it or not right now, or if holiday let service accommodation is worth it as well, or if you should be selling if you have an investment property right now or a second home. That is what we're going to be talking about tomorrow for the Wealth Creation Show. So we've talked about headline statistics. Let's go on to some what's sold, what's listed, what's getting listed elsewhere in the week. We'll just flip on to the next one. Okay, so sold this week. Let me talk about these ones quickly. Stratheden Partners Stratheden is actually sold. This took a wee bit longer than usual, longer than average, which is about 2 months. 2-bedroom semi-detached house. This was actually listed at offered over 230,000. It is now sold. So if 230,000 is your price point for a house like this, a 2-bedroom semi-detached house like this in the Cooper area, and you've got one similar, and you're thinking, wow, that's a lot of money for the type of house I'm in just now, and that will give me a lot more choices if I sell up and actually go somewhere else or do something else, then this could now be the opportunity for you right now. The next one, sold in 2 days. This was Bonfield Muirhead Farm in Craig Rothley. This was sold in 2 days. Literally, we had a huge amount of inquiries on social media on this property. Again, you could see there examples of the right types of properties will be sold quicker. So it just demonstrates that. There's a 3-bedroom bungalow, and this was listed at offers over 270,000. So that's what that's going for. Okay, let's talk about some other ones. What's coming soon? Watch out for these ones. Lemon Terrace in Leiden, 3-bedroom bungalow. Coming soon. It'll be coming this week. 3-bedroom bungalow in Leiden and Lemon Terrace. If that's what you're looking for right now, message us direct or phone us on 01333 421 774. Do not wait until it goes on a website, because I've got a funny feeling this is going to go from social media. So message us now about these ones. So you're in the running at least, and you'll be notified when more information is available on these, and we can give you way before it hits social media, way before it hits a website. Ballarmonth, St Andrews. This is a 3-bedroom house coming on. We've got Grasminson and Stedding and Crail, 2-bedroom apartment. It's a wonderful apartment. Got a beautiful garden at the front. Sits in the sun all day long. Absolute mint inside. We've also got a farmhouse in there as well, which is actually a good renovation project if somebody wants to get into that, a development opportunity. Definitely there as well. So watch out for that one. I'll be doing that one on Friday. I'll be doing these two in Crail. Completed over the line. Let me talk to you about completed. Completed means keys handed over, money exchanged. I can now tell you prices and what they went for. And this gives you a good idea about what properties are going for right now at this point in time. This was Flaxmill Lane in Milton Balgony. It actually sold in 3 weeks. And it was a good sized property there. And it sold for 4.3% over the home report value. And it represented another £10,000. Flaxmill Lane. Taylor Street and Methil sold 5 weeks. It sold for 1.4% over the home report value, represented another £2,500 at £62,500. Wellesley Road and Methil, this sold for 7.6% over the home report value at £75,050. It represented another £5,050 over the home report value. Links Place and Leave-In, it sold in 3 weeks and it sold for 3.1% of the home report value, which represented another £5,500 at £180,500. So it just shows you what properties are actually going for in terms of the price point themselves. Hopefully that's given you a real good information and update about what is going on in terms of prices over and above home report values at this point in time. Let me just quickly round off a couple of articles on here. You can click on the links if you want. Richard and I and Karen did a landlord lingo buster yesterday, second part. Mid-tenancy checks, rent reviews, tax talk as well. Getting your property back in Fife, how to get your property back if there's things going wrong, what the legal legislation is. Also, if you're watching outside the Scottish market, we also talked about the English market and how to do the same things as well. Tax is a bit universal, so we covered that. I also gave my insight into tax as an accountant previously, because I was a financial director, financial control in the industry previously, and I'm also an investor as well, so I keep up to speed with the tax regulations and what goes on, and give some unique insight into my thoughts and what to do and how to plan better for tax. You could face a huge tax bill this year if you don't get it right before the end of March, but if you do get it right, that tax bill could actually be mitigated by smoothing it over to the next year, and it could mean between both years, it could be a lot less than usual. Okay, let's also talk about, so we'll talk about that in there, and let's go on to the next one. 50% of house sellers in 2022 had only been in their home for an average of 4 years and 12 weeks. This is quite an interesting one here. Did you know there's £7 trillion worth of residential property in private hands right now in the UK? And also, therefore, the average British homeowner took 20 years and 4 months to sell. That's the other 50% on average. So it just shows you, we talk about that in there in that article, and we've got a nice wee graph here as well, which we talk about as well. So if you want to listen to that podcast, read this article. This article basically takes 3 or 4 minutes. If you want to read the article, click on the links in the post and tell you all about that. I did a midweek update for the Scottish property prices, which I spoke about there now. And I've spoken about the wealth creation show as well just now. This is an interesting one. Carrie, our home report value is 75% of value, though. No. Home reports won't be 75% of the value. That's the values for home reports are actually based on factual information. So what we're doing for home reports, what a surveyor does is they go out, look at what's been sold before, they look at what's been on the market right now, they look at what's currently sold right now, because we give them that feedback as well about what's currently in the pipeline and is not on record yet, and then they come to a factual assessment of where the valuation is based on all this information. Plus the fact as well, we take into account indexation. In other words, if you've only bought it in the last 3 years, property prices have gone up about 30% in the last 3 years. So it's easy to say if a house is £200,000, that it should be about 260 today, just purely on indexation, and then look at what's actually currently sold right now, and what's over the line, what's actually in the pipeline sold. In other words, somebody's offered and it's been accepted on it, and then compare that against the indexation point. And if they're two similar amounts, then it kind of gives you a really good idea where you are right now. If you've spent maybe a £20,000 in refurbishing that, we'll look at that refurbishment as well and see if that is actually capital value it's adding, or is that just personal choice? In other words, you've maybe ripped out a brand new kitchen and put in another brand new kitchen that you liked. That's not really adding value to a property unless the brand new kitchen is substantially more money, and then the differential will probably add the value on. So hopefully that'll give you a really good idea about home report values and how they're actually set, and how they're accurately set. The market then decides from there, as I said, based on the information I've just given you right now, about generally what they'll pay over and above the home report value. And it's still quite stable. Stable is the word I'd say. So maybe home report value. Some properties actually are going for over the home report value, and some real special properties, one-offs, now are actually going for significantly over the home report value. So it all depends on what you really want out of the property and how important it is for you to get it. I always cite the example, if your property is maybe 400,000 to buy, the one that you want to buy, and you're quibbling about £10,000, and your objective is to stay in this property for the next 20 years, that represents an extra £500 a year you're paying to get the dream home that you really want. Is it really that important to try and quibble over the £10,000 then, if that's the case? You can't take it with you, and that's what it's meant for. However, if you've got a really good agent that sells your house in order to upgrade to that house, a really good agent would probably get that extra money for you. Not naming any names. Could be one sitting right in front of you. And that's how we do things. That's how it's specialist done for your home report. There'll be other factors as well that involve that. If you've got any like electrical problems in the property, if you've got woodworm, or if you've got damp or anything like that, it's appeared after you bought it, if it was in a short period of time or over a period of time. And these are all things that need to be rectified. That's why the grading system 1, 2, and 3 are in home reports as well. 1 is immaculate, no need to worry. 2 is a guidance note in a home report, say with a comment next to it. And typically the woodworm one is, there's evidence of wood borer infestation. It usually is a 2. We don't seem to see it as being active at all, but you need to check warranties and guarantees to see if it's been sprayed before, and if there's anything, if there's any guarantee or warranty in place. The other one as well is typically it gets a 2 if you've not done your electrics in the last 2 or 3 years. Then you'll usually get a 2 next to the electrics one, and it says, you know, the electrics, well, not up to current standard, is still usable, and we advise, you know, anybody to check for themselves. That's what they do. That's the get out of jail card every single time for the surveyors. That's the standard clause that goes on there. So if you see these clauses, don't be too put off by them. They're just standard clauses that are in there. All you need to do is do your due diligence to make sure everything is okay and as it seems. In other words, warranties have been in place, spraying's been done, the wood borer infestation isn't active. Maybe the electric has got an RCD protected unit, which means everything switches off properly and it protects the whole electrical system. And it's not just old push fit ones with the wee wire in between and the actual ceramic itself enclosure, the old type there. These could easily change as well, so don't let that put you off, because typically you can change a consumer box for about £500 or thereabouts. An electrician can do that for you. So don't let that put you off as well if you see an electrical consumer box like that. Again, get professional advice from an electrical, a proper electrician, and get their professional opinion on what should be done. Heating systems are exactly the same thing. You've got the old type combi boilers in. You don't have, they're maybe older than usual, and you maybe want a condenser boiler, because the combi boiler or a back boiler, for example, runs 55% efficiency. So in other words, for every £1 on energy you spend, 45p goes right up the lum, and you never see any benefit for that. You only see about 55p of that in benefit in terms of use. Midpoint combi boilers are not condensers, are around about 75% efficiency. So it's 75p you gain, 25p up the chimney. And The next one is the best one, which is the condenser boilers. They tend to run about 95 to 96% efficiency, which means they're very efficient and they recycle the energy in there with a condenser unit. These are very efficient. Now, if you have an old type boiler, there's sometimes grants to change them. Also, if you've got an old type central heating system on the wall, which is a wall mounted combi boiler, and all the pipe work's in place, generally you can probably just take that off and actually put a new condenser boiler on without much disruption to the pipe work at all. But again, speak to a gas engineer about that and see what their thoughts are on it. So not too much of an encumbrance or a cost in order to buy your next house. So don't let any of these things put you off. Okay, that's me. I'm going to wrap up here unless there's any more questions. No. Remember, check out the Wealth Creation Show tomorrow. Richard and I are going to be talking about investment strategies, buy-to-let, and the economy and where we think it's going to go in the next year. It'll be really interesting because I've got a completely conflicting argument as to what the Bank of England and what the governor actually thinks as well. See you later. Bye-bye for now.